This morning we're just going to wrap up. Shouldn't take more than an hour, probably a little bit less. We're going to wrap up short review on the objections that we have built in here in the book. We're going to be starting on page 121. So we're going to go over the objections, and then we'll go over the seller's counseling interview, which is an important piece that's tied to any appointment that I would go on or an ISA would go on, either way. And then once we wrap that up, Alex will be here, and he's going to spend the day with you going through some really great content on the actual listing presentation or buyer's presentation. So again, everybody on page 121 will see objections and how to overcome them. That's where we're going to start, right? Just refreshing our memory from yesterday. We want to acknowledge their concern. We don't want to argue or get combative, right? We want to make sure that we clearly understand what their concerns are, and then we want to answer it and make sure that that clears it up for them. There's no other questions they have. Does that answer that for you? Does that take care of your concern? Is that still an issue? Do you feel more comfortable now based on what I've shared with you? To make sure that that's no longer something that potentially is going to keep the sale from moving forward. So my advice on these objections would be when you're in your office and you're doing prospecting, or you have somebody doing prospecting for you, have them make a list of the most common objections that they're getting on the phone. Some of those will be in here, but you'll have those 3 to 5 common ones. And if it's not in here, you can sit down and create your own effective rebuttal for a lot of those, right? But we have the same 3 to 5 all the time. So honestly, if you have somebody who's making 300 to 500 calls a day, right, and 90% of those are telling them no, and they're telling them no based on the same 3 to 5 objections, like how could you not at some point just be able to nail it, right? You have so many swings a day. You get that same objection all the time. I mean, 30 days in, you've heard it 10,000 times. How are you not, at the point where you can answer it? But some of these are really common. So they'll get back to you, or they have to talk with their spouse. They're not sure of their schedule, that kind of thing. So we don't want to let that eliminate the potential for setting an appointment. But we're just going to, again, acknowledge it. I appreciate that you're busy. I'm busy as well. We'll probably get busier as time goes by, and we'll end up playing phone tag for a month and never end up getting the appointment set up, right? So if I could make a suggestion, why don't we set something up tentatively? If we don't schedule it, it'll probably never get done. We can always move it if we need to, right? So, hey, no problem. I understand you need to look at your schedule, 121. You need to look at your schedule, no problem. I'm busy, you're busy. If we don't take the time to meet, we're probably just going to continue to postpone it. Why don't we do this? Let's get something on the calendar tentatively, and if we need to reschedule it, no big deal. Right? So that way we can get it on the calendar. We'll make that call 24 hours before the meeting to make sure that we're still on, but at least we get it on the calendar, and that gets over what could just be them trying to brush you off. Right? Just a little bit more persistence, as we talked about going for the close multiple times. So we're closing for the appointment here. So same difference. Like if they don't give me the appointment on the first time I ask, that doesn't mean I'm not going to ask again and again, right? So if they try to pawn you off with their schedule being busy, I understand, I'm busy also. Let's get it on the calendar so we can ensure it gets done. If we need to reschedule it, no big deal. I'll call you 48 hours or so ahead of time. Next one, if the person is not there or someone else picks up, I don't know, this isn't really an objection, right? I don't know why that's in here. But so you could ask, do you know when he or she will be back? When is a better time to reach them, right? So that's where I'd go with that. Why didn't you bring a buyer, right? That's a common one. So what we have here is at the time it was on the market, I really didn't hear about it. I pride myself usually on keeping my ear to track when new listings come on to the market. Looks like you had a really nice house. I really can't imagine why people didn't want to see it. However, if your prior agent didn't do a good job marketing the property, that could have been the reason, right? And that's about as far as I want to go, beating up the other agent. That's not my style, and I don't think you get very far going that. You're much better off pitching your value and what makes you great than what makes somebody else not as good, right? So if the agent didn't do a good job marketing, that could have been the reason. I don't know. I can tell you that we spend thousands of dollars a month to generate hundreds of buyer leads for our listings. So by generating so many leads, we drive more buyers to your home to get more showings than any other agent, which is an important factor in increasing the price of your home. Does that make sense? If we can show you how we can dramatically increase the number of showings on your home to get it sold at a price and time frame acceptable to you, would you be open to meeting with us? Right, so we're not bashing the other agent. Why didn't you bring a buyer when I had it on the market? You know, that's funny. I didn't even notice that it was on the market, and I'm surprised because I usually keep my ear pretty low to the track when it comes to new listings. You know, I can't tell you that if the agent didn't do a good job marketing the property, that could have been the reason why. I don't know. You know, I can tell you that we spend hundreds of dollars, we spend thousands of dollars to generate buyer interest for our listings. That drives up the attention, the exposure, all connected to price. Or, as a different option, that's a great question. You know, we work primarily with sellers. We commit our time, energy, and budget to drive up demand on their homes to get them sold for up to 18% more than the methods used by traditional agents. Our goal is really to be laser focused on getting their home sold. So really, we don't work with a lot of buyers. Most of our time is spent with sellers. We invest our time and resources into getting their properties the most exposure, right, so that they can get the highest amount, up to 18% more for their home. We didn't have many showings. So if we can show you how we can dramatically increase the number of showings on your home to get it sold and get it sold in a time frame that's acceptable to you, would you be open to talking about that, right? Really simple. Again, taking the information, I didn't have any showings. So what are they telling you ultimately? If I could get you more showings, then would you be open to meeting with me about that? Right? If they think showings is the issue, then let me ask you this. If I could get you 3 times as many showings as what you had with your last agent, would you give me 60 minutes to explain how? Right? So if we can show you how we could dramatically increase the number of showings on your home to get it sold at a price and at a time frame that would be acceptable to you, would you be open to meeting with us to talk about that? Looks like you have a really nice house. Don't understand why people didn't want to see it. Again, we can go into the same thing. What I do know is that we spend thousands of dollars every month to generate buyer leads for our listings. And that one factor alone, by generating so many leads, we drive buyers to your home to get more showings than any other agent typically would, and that increases the price that will be paid for your home. As you mentioned before, getting the most amount of money is important to you, right? So can you see how just this one factor, the way that we attract buyers, could get you more money for your home? Or we're currently working with thousands of buyers. When we list a home, the first thing that we do is we expose it to our list of highly qualified, pre-approved buyers. Right? Even before we put it on the MLS, just to see if it matches for any of them. A lot of times we can sell it in the first 24 to 72 hours after we take it to make it easy for you. Right? So that creates some value. Listen, we have a list of pre-qualified, pre-approved buyers that we're constantly building. The first thing that we do is take and introduce your property to our list of those highly qualified, pre-approved buyers to see if it's a match for any of them. In some cases, we can sell the property in 24 to 72 hours. Right? I'm not saying that that's the case, but that would be the first thing that we do. If we can get your home sold fast and we can get it sold for top dollar by selling it to one of our pre-qualified buyers, would you be open to finding out how we can do that? Right? We're trying to establish the value in meeting with us. Why would I take time out of my day to meet with you? Well, if I do have this list of pre-qualified, pre-approved buyers, and the first thing I'm going to do is take your property and introduce it to them, and there's a good chance that somebody might be interested in making an offer in 24 to 72 hours before it's even on the MLS, does that not represent some value? That's worth 60 minutes. But if I don't articulate the value, their time is worth something just like ours. Right? So I need to be prepared to give them a reason to take their time and spend it with me. So, it was the price. That's why it didn't sell. Is that your belief, or is that what your agent told you? Right? Unfortunately, a lot of agents will tell you that the home didn't sell because of price, when in reality, they just couldn't get the job done. Now, it could have been the price. You know, we wouldn't know without seeing your home. So when would be a good time for us to come by so that we can confirm what your home would sell for in today's market? By the way, while I'm there, I can also, go over some things that you can do, more importantly, what not to do to get the most amount of money for your home. And at the same time, I can review the fees and the costs associated with getting your home sold so you know exactly what you're walking away with. right? We just use that as a great opportunity to get in the door, right? It was price. Well, is that what you believe, or is that what your agent told you? Because I can tell you in my experience, a lot of agents will say it was price when they just couldn't get the job done. Now, that being said, it could have been price. But when's a good time that we can come over so we can confirm what we think market value would be? And hey, while I'm there, we'll go over some things you can do to get more money for the home if that's important to you. We'll go over fees and expenses so you'll know exactly what you'd walk away with if you decided to sell your home with us. Right? And the tonality is really important on all this stuff. It's not something that we're going into a lot here, but you can hear the tonality like, no big deal, right? Would you be open to selling with us if it made sense, right? Only if it made sense, of course. But those tonality and voice inflections, I mean, that really makes all the difference in the world. I could say the same exact thing with a different kind of tonality and push somebody away really quickly, and they'd feel pressure, right? Which is a good thing. Sometimes you want them to. But really be aware of the tone that you're using, right? Especially when you're asking somebody to commit to something. In this particular case, my experience is the softer, right, I approach that, the better, especially when we're talking about an appointment, for instance, right? The dynamic may change when we're face-to-face. But just to get in the door, I want to make it low risk, no harm, no foul. Hey, worst case scenario, you're better informed, right? You need information to make the decision on when and what you're going to do, so I can give you the information that would help. We're going to wait a while before we list again. That's perfectly fair. If you want to wait, have your plans changed. Right? Why were you selling the home originally? I can understand wanting to wait if your plans have changed. Is that the case? You know, in today's market, inventory is really low and buyers are waiting for the right home. Right? In a lot of cases, inventory is really low and there's a whole long line of buyers, right? And that being the case, some of them would be willing to wait possibly. So if we could find a buyer who is willing to pay your price and give you the extra time that you need to close, would you be open to letting us show you how you can do that? Right? There's all kinds of ways that you can work that out to provide somebody who's willing to wait 60 or 90 days, and provide the home seller, right, the time that they need. So if their plans haven't changed and we're talking about 60 or 90 days, no problem. With today's market, inventory being low, a lot of buyers are willing to wait. So if we were able to find a buyer who's willing to give you the time to close and pay the price that you're asking, would you be open to talking about that? We want to do some work on the home, pretty easy one. Right? It's perfectly fair if you want to do some work on the home. However, the people who buy your home may not want things fixed up exactly the way that you do it. Right? So a lot of your time and money could be lost. If we could find a buyer that was willing to pay your price without you having to do the work, would you be open to meeting with us so we could show you how we could do that? Right? Real simple. I got to do a bunch of work to the house. Well, if I found somebody who was willing to give you your price without you having to do the work, would you be open to that idea? Do you? I don't know. When's a good time that I could come by and take a look at the home? We'd have a much better idea, right? And hey, at the end of the day, one of three things is going to happen. Right? We go right back to those things we talked about yesterday. So if they want to do work, our first trigger in our mind is, hey, if you didn't have to do the work and still get the price that you wanted, would you be open to talking about that? We're going to sell it ourselves. Like we talked about yesterday, we want to figure out why. Right? So do they want to save money, and that's why they're selling it on their own, or is it because they don't like real estate agents? And then we can drop some knowledge on them, right? Last year, the average for sale by owner left, it was 13% here in 2015. Somebody can look up the stats. I think it was 16% or something that I saw recently for 2016. But for sale by owner left up to 16%, for instance, money or equity on the table when selling it themselves. If we can help you walk away with the amount that you're wanting to walk away with, even after our fee and expenses, would you be open to meeting with us so we can show you how we could do that? Same thing we talked about yesterday, getting to that net. What do you want to walk away with, right? And if I can show you that we can get you to that point, even after my fees and expenses, would you give me time to talk to you about it, right? And by the way, I will take all these responsibilities off your plate. That's the value. Huh?
Opening the doors
Opening your door to strangers. Have you thought about how it's going to feel opening your door to 20 strangers if you were lucky enough to have that many people walk through the home? There's all kinds of ways. Also, and sometimes you have to educate them. If Chase here, right, has a client who's going to pay him 3% commission, and then he's got another client who's going to pay him 1.5% commission, which one is he going to be more apt to go show and run over town to show? Right? And so, now you got a for sale by owner who nobody can find the property in the first place, and there's probably not a lot being paid out on it. So they're not going to drive a bunch of agents to their property using that strategy. They don't understand that, though, in a lot of cases. We're going to work with a friend or a family member. Oh, we don't like real estate agents. Excuse me, let me make sure we don't skip that one. Right? So I can appreciate how you feel about agents. I get to work with them every day. Ha, ha, ha. Fortunately, they're not all the same. The best thing about our company is that if you're not satisfied at the job that we're doing, you can cancel at any time, no penalty. That way you hold us accountable to doing a great job for you. Right? When will be a good time for us to meet together so I can show you how our satisfaction guarantee works, if that's something that fits for you, and how we can get your home sold for up to 18% more than the methods used by traditional real estate agents. We're going to work with the family or family member to list our house, or we have a friend or relative in the business. All right, that's perfectly fine to consider that. Are you working with your family member because you think they can get you the most amount of money for the home, or because you just want to help them out? Right? A lot of times they just want to help them out. They don't really know their stats. Right? If you ask them how long they've been in the business, it's a year, maybe not. But what we want to get to is, do they really want to get the most amount of money for the home? Because that may not mean working with the relative or family member. We need to figure out where their alliance is, right? Is their alliance to getting where they want to go, and in the meantime, getting their property sold quickly and getting the most amount of money? Or is their alliance to, take less money, if it doesn't sell quickly, no big deal, I just want to help my friend or my family member out? Great. Even if you do list your home with your family member, wouldn't it make sense just to get a second opinion so you can compare what he or she does with our proven repeatable system that helps homeowners get up to 18% more? So no big deal. Even if you do decide to list with them, wouldn't it make sense to get a second opinion, right? Just to compare what we do differently than what he or she might do, and we can also talk about our proven repeatable system. Or you could go with the other route. That can be difficult, working with a family member. Oh, boy. Right. Would it make your relationship difficult if the property didn't sell? Right. Let's just say that the contract expired and you had to have that conversation where you were kind of firing them as your agent. Would that be awkward? So if I could make a suggestion, I'm sure that you value relationships just as much as I do. Doctors typically don't operate on family members. Lawyers don't typically represent friends or family. Don't put that kind of unnecessary pressure on yourself. With our company, if at any point you're not satisfied, you can cancel your listing free of charge. I would just say you can cancel your listing. I don't like free of charge, personally. So if you're not satisfied, you could cancel your listing, but at least you won't have the pressure and the awkward situation that could be created, right, by working with your family member or friend, etc. Or a couple more, right, questions. What's more important to you, giving your business to your friend or getting the most amount of money? If I can guarantee you a better price and get you everything else and still help your friend benefit from the sale, would you be open to that? That's along the lines there of I'm going to give the relative or the friend a little kickback or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So we've already picked an agent to work with. First place we want to go to make sure that we're not headed down a road we shouldn't be is, have they already signed a listing contract? Right? So I've already got an agent. Have you signed the listing agreement yet? Right? I'm working with an agent. Have you signed a listing agreement? So you're in a listing contract? Because a lot of people say that and they're not. Right? I've got an agent. I know they just have one that they plan on using. Right? So always ask, have you signed the listing agreement? And we're going to go with the second opinion again. Decisions are based on information, right? So a second opinion or additional information is valuable if presented the right way. So it may be, even if you have somebody selected, it may be a good idea just to get a second opinion. You know, as I mentioned earlier, we do have something that's different. It's a proven, repeatable system backed by market research, and it helps homeowners get up to 18% more money than what a lot of these traditional real estate agents will get you. Would it be worth it to spend a few minutes just to see if we could get more money for your home? Right? If we, like we talked about yesterday, if it means $10,000 or $20,000 for your home, would you be willing to spend 60 minutes? We're going to relist again with the same agent. Have you already signed the listing agreement? Make sure. That's perfectly fair if you want to use the same agent. If I could just make a suggestion, though, before you sign a lengthy listing agreement, wouldn't it make sense to get a second opinion just to ensure that your home actually sells this time around? Right? And we get the most amount of money for it. We've got a proven, repeatable system that's backed by market research that gets our clients' homes sold for up to 18% more than traditional real estate agents. When would be a good time for us to come by, give you a second opinion, and show you how we might be able to get you more money? And hey, if it doesn't make sense or you decide to go a different direction, no big deal. Right? We want to wait until the weather gets better, spring, etc., summer, New Year. That's perfectly fair. This is really a good one around like October, November, December, right? Because again, they don't know the stats. I mean, we know that the stats are, right, that the homes sell quicker actually in those times of the year when you would think, you know, it's bad as far as maybe the number of properties, but if you look at the stats, they sell quicker in December, for instance, right? And the buyers that are out there are typically more motivated. So we can use some of that here to answer any concerns about that. So oddly enough, this time of the year is one of the best times to sell a home. Not only are there fewer homes on the market that you're competing with, but the buyers that are out there looking are typically a lot more motivated. And they're a lot more serious. So can you see how your home would actually be more attractive to potential buyers right now? Right? So I can understand why you'd feel that way. It makes a lot of sense. But oddly enough, this is actually one of the best times of the year to sell your home. There's less homes on the market that you're competing with, and the buyers that are out there looking are serious, right? And if they find the right home, they're willing to move. So can you see how if we price and position your property correctly, now could actually be the best time of the year to sell the home? What's your commission or how much do you charge? Our fee's flexible, right? Our goal is to find a price and a fee structure that works well for you and us. I don't go into that we can sell your home for as little as 0% and as much as 7%, depending on which program you choose. When would be a good time for us to talk about it? Really, I would reduce that down to, you know, our fee is flexible. That's something that we can talk about. Why don't I come by, go over our system and the strategy we would use to help you get the most amount of money for your home. And if you still have some concerns centered around that, we'll talk about it then. Fair enough? Right? And I'm never going to bring it up again unless they bring it up. I mean, you know, if I go in there and I blow them away with our strategy and the value that we represent, they're not going to be talking about the commission. Or if they are, we can justify it because we just knocked it out of the park on the value, right, that we bring to the table. Same thing with the weather gets better. That's the same one we just used. So we've got duplications here. What's your commission? Same thing. They already had a market evaluation, so an agent came by and met with me, kind of gave me an idea what the home would be worth. Do you feel obligated to that agent? Right? When were you planning on listing your home, or what were you planning on listing your home for with respect to price? That's perfectly fair. Let me ask you, if we could get you $5,000, maybe $10,000 more with a buyer who was flexible, would you be willing to talk about that? What's up, Marco?
On the last one, why would you say as little as 0%?
Because some people would charge a flat fee, right? Some people, I think, charge a flat fee to sell properties, and so it's not a percent based on the sale. So if that was something that is a fit for you, you can do it. But personally, I'd rather pitch my value and make my value worth something as opposed to take nothing, right?
Well, sometimes the buyers pay the commission.
And so, right, there's other ways it can be worked out, right? But good question, right? I don't think anybody here wants to work for 0%. Do enough of that. We're doing, yeah, right. You see, price is a function of supply and demand, so if they've had the market evaluations and we're still looking for a way to get in the door, we're going to add some value. Price is a function of supply and demand. We have several ways of increasing the demand for your property, and that often leads to a much better price for you. When would be a good time so we could come by and just explain what we would do to make sure that your home gets the most exposure and gets the most amount of money put in your pocket? Right? Exposure. Why would I meet with you? How are you any different? I can get more exposure for your property. I'm not going to go down the long list of things that we do right now over the phone with you. Why don't we set up a time and I can go over it in more detail? Right? Just enough so that I can get in the door. And I don't want to go over my whole system right here on the telephone. Then there's no reason to meet. They're not going to remember a word of it as soon as they hang up the phone, right? And I'm going to lose my ability to influence from so many other avenues. So resist the urge to do that. Tell me about this system, right? Well, just one thing I can tell you, for instance, is supply and demand, right? We spend thousands of dollars every month to generate a lot of demand for our listings. And that in turn generates more showings, more offers. You know where this is going. That's how you get the most amount of money for your home. You understand that, right? So when's a good time I could come over? I'll show you in more detail what we would do in regards to that and also go over everything else involved with our system. Would Saturday work for you before the day gets started? And tag a close on the end of it, right? But just enough information to go, I'd be willing to hear more. And that's our window to get in the door and finish off with our well-planned presentation that Alex is going to go over here shortly. May I ask what those agents quoted you? Back to the market evaluations. What did they quote you for commission? If we could do it for less and still get you the same price, would that be acceptable? When would be a good time for us to come by? You know, I'd really say if we could get you more money for selling the home, when's a good time that we could come by and talk about it, right? Same difference. Paying less in commission is getting more money for the home, right? So is getting more money for the home. So that's the way I would go. Does your spouse have to be there? Here it says no, they don't need to be there, which if they really can't be, right, you're not going to keep that from you taking advantage of an opportunity to meet. But in most cases, if they are a decision maker, which they probably are, we would like for them both to be there, right? Then we have a fair chance at closing the deal. And we can take I've got to talk to my wife or I've got to talk to my husband off the table, right? If they're not there, that's naturally where it's going to go. So no, they don't need to be there, but what I've found is that you may have some questions that your spouse doesn't. They'll probably have some questions that you don't. So if they can both be there, right, it works better. We can have all of our questions answered at the same time. Are you going to discuss the decision before you put it on the market? All right, great. So it's probably best that they'll be there. And if they say, no, they can't be here. Right? No, he's out of town. I'll talk to him, but he can't make it. Great, no problem. When do you plan on discussing, right, the sale with him or her? Would you mind if I was to give you a call back then? Right? If I was to say, Marco, when do you plan on talking to your wife? And he says, I'm going to talk to her this evening, probably around 7 o'clock or so. Okay, great. Hey, let me ask you this. Would you mind if I gave you a call then and just took a minute to answer any questions that you guys might have? Right? I mean, unless it's an excuse, you shouldn't have a problem with that. Or we'll just reschedule it for a different time. But it's a way for me to flush out really how serious they might be or he might be, or if he's just using it as a brush off. Right? No problem. You're going to talk to her tonight? Well, what time? Well, why don't I give you a call then and we can go over any questions that she comes up with. Oh, well, no, I don't want to do all that. Well, I must misunderstand something. Right? How motivated are you to get this home on the market and get it sold? Is there something that you don't understand about the presentation we went over or whatever? Then I start trying to isolate down what other issues there may be, right? We want more money. We go right to great, right? That's our expertise, getting people up to 18% more, for instance, than traditional methods. But price is a function of supply and demand. We have a proven, repeatable system based on market research that gets more money. Wouldn't it be a good time for us to meet and show you how we can get you more money using our system? If you keep getting, we want to wait. If I could find a buyer right now that was willing to pay your price, would you be open to that idea? Doing improvements, the same thing. If we could get your price and keep you from having to do the improvements. Would that be okay? We also have a coming soon program where we can give you the time that you need to do some fixes, some small work, and not miss out on the interest from buyers that might be willing to wait to see the home. Right, you need to put new floors in, whatever, no problem. We have a coming soon listing where we can still get some exposure built for the property, give you time to fix it. Right, a lot of buyers will be willing to wait to see the home. What do you need our mortgage amount for, right? And we'll go over our seller's counseling interview, and that's one of the questions we ask is how much is left on the mortgage. So when we get together with you, we'd like to prepare a seller's estimate of proceeds to illustrate all the costs involved with your sale. The biggest cost is usually the mortgage payoff, so do you have an approximate figure on what that is? Right, and the best way to ask that is just ballpark figure. I don't need anything specific. The best way to guarantee you the best price is to provide you with the most options. Some mortgages have some different factors involved, like assumable mortgages and so on. There may be additional ways we can promote the property to get you the best price. Do you know your rate and approximate mortgage balance? Do you have any idea whether or not it's assumable, if that was something that, works for you and is applicable? We haven't decided to list our home with anyone yet. Perfectly fine. The best time to meet is when you don't feel any pressure and there isn't any pressure to make a decision. That way you can absorb all the information, get the questions answered that you want well in advance of listing it. Right? So again, we advise on taking time to plan out this process. Right? So the best time to meet is when you're not under any pressure. You can take all the information in. You can meet with as many people as you want. Right? But take all the information, absorb it, and then make a better decision when it comes to listing the property. We want to look before we list. Great. When would be a good time for us to sit down with one of my certified home buying advisors? We can get a list of free properties and the price range and so on that you're looking for. What day is better? Right? We kind of turn it into a buyer's appointment. I can certainly understand that you want to look, you want to know where you're going before you sell. Are you open to carrying 2 mortgages? Probably not. Unfortunately, once you've found a home, there isn't enough time often to list yours and sell it in time to make sure that we secure the other property, right? So if I could make a suggestion, I'm assuming you want to get as much for your home as possible. At the same time, you want to get the best value on your next purchase. Let's do this. Why don't we go ahead and set aside a half hour to discuss the strategy? Are mornings or afternoons better for you? Kind of same thing on we don't want to move twice. Many times we can facilitate your new home's closing at the same time as the closing for your existing one. The good news is you have lots of options that are available to you, including extending your closing, letting you rent back the property, or even making your home sale contingent on your ability to find a new home. Right? So when would be a good time for us to get together and discuss all those options? People like options. No problem. You want to know where you're going. I can understand that. Oftentimes we can coordinate things so it happens at the same time. There's also other options that would allow you the time that you need. When's a good time that we can come by and go over what those are? Yep.
Can I throw out a real life scenario?
Yeah.
Something I'm working with right now.
Sure.
And sorry if I'm going to bore some of you. Basically, here's what's occurred. A couple weeks ago, I saw on Facebook, hey, moving to Reno, or I'm going to Reno. Hi. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it picks up on the camera thing.
Cool. Anyway, going to Reno in 6 weeks, and so my response was, "Oh, you coming back? Just something cute." He's like, "Actually, we're moving for good. I'll reach out to you by email."
Mm-hmm.
So here's his response. "How are you? So yeah, we're leaving to Colorado, and we're going to Reno to be closer to family and friends. Went a couple weeks ago to interview, and got the interview. We're selling our home here in Highlands Ranch. We actually don't think we'll be needing a realtor, though." This is someone who I sold the home to 4 years ago. Daughter's a month older than ours. We've gotten the kids together, things like this. Homes are in such high demand in our neighborhood in the lower end of the price range that we met people looking for homes just by word of mouth through the kids' schools. We had one family stop by to take a look. They're from Kansas and just moved to the area that's in our daughter's class. I really want to save the money that we would pay out to the commission to use to buy another home. It would be good to meet up, though before we left, let me know. So my response, and this has been going on, so I'm where I'm at right now is kind of a stuck point. I said, hey man, I'm sorry to hear you're going, but it looks like you guys are pretty stoked about it. How did the showing go yesterday? Honestly, I wouldn't be in the business if I didn't know I could make you more money and save you more stress, but I can totally respect it. If you do decide you want a realtor, I'll be happy to give you the deals, or give you a deal since you guys have been loyal to me. And typically we just do something like, say it's 7%, we'll drop it down to 6. I normally save people about 18% more than they can make on their own, and make sure that the sale is truly qualified. So things have about 90% less fallout rate. What are you up to this weekend? Maybe dinner on Friday, the kids can get together. His response, my wife has to work all weekend. I don't think it'll work. We have another 4 weeks. So he's been avoiding my calls as well, and avoiding my texts. He's been staying strict to the script. Showing went fine. Wife came back yesterday to take a look again. Not sure the husband and wife are on the same page though. What kind of deal could you give us? So
Right? It's already starting to change his attitude. This is just after one couple came.
That's what you think, and that's where I started going. I said, no problem, we can always try to plan for the next weekend if you're available. Every house is different with pricing. I can swing by the house really quickly if you want to go over the options, services for marketing. Basically, I will customize the plan for you and trim out some of the less necessary stuff in this market. In addition to saving you some money. Ultimately, my objective with any of the options is to make sure you save or make more money than you make on your own. Timing numbers, preferred services choices will help us figure out the best way to position your house for the least money or for the least amount of cost, stress, and time. Just let me know how things go with the family, and if it doesn't appear they're going to weigh out, let me know, and I'll be happy to help. Sorry, I apologize. If it looks like it's going to pan out, I'll help you with the papers. Thanks, Brandon, is what I got. Then, he said, no problem at all. He sends me the offer right after they came back. He said, Brandon, I was wondering who's paying closing costs these days, buyer, seller, partial. They made me an offer. Okay? So I said, and then he says, this is what I sent us. They sent him an offer that is $27,000 below market. Asked them to pay
How much is the property?
So basically, I asked him numerous times, so I'll tell you that as well. They said we'd like to offer you $376. Average price in there, even for an average home, is going for about $410, $450. So they're asking them $390 minus 3%, which is the commission, and that's fine. $2,000 for carpet and $300 for new toilets. Then they gave them a breakdown of all the closing fees, and there's one thing like with title, they could easily save about 50% just because of what's it called? Because they've sold it in the last 5 years. So let's see. I'm looking for.
So do we get an opportunity to meet this person? That's really what we need to do here. We need to control the process.
So I think I sent it through another email. Here we go. I said, what was the purchase price if you were, I said, hey Jeff, what was the purchase price if you were asking for the home? I'm confident I can make you more money and take all the process off. In a for sale by owner situation, a buyer goes after a realtor commission first, typically, and that's what the point of, and then what's the point of doing it yourself? I know I will get you more money on the sale, save you more money on the closing costs, and will make you make it so you don't have to be the one negotiating for yourself. I do this through multiple ways every day and can get you on the market fast. You haven't even been through the inspection or appraisal process at this point, and they're lowballing.
So can I just for time constraints, Brandon, I'm not being rude. Okay, wrap it up.
All right. I know, I told you, I warned you. It's not about the traditional or non-traditional these days for closing costs. It's about what we can negotiate on your behalf. I would genuinely appreciate the opportunity to help you. I know I can. I have one simple objective, that's to keep my relationship with you. If If I don't perform, it will be hard for me to keep that with you. I spend thousands of dollars a month on just making sure my clients' homes are in prime position to sell the most. And the last one was that he said, I appreciate your offer. We have a counter, we agreed. Basically, you could have gotten us more, but we haven't done any updates to the home, so we're accepting the offer.
So that deal is done, right? But you helped him out a whole lot.
And he's asking me to help him with positioning paperwork and so forth.
Yeah. So I wouldn't have spent, I know this is just me, but even with a friend and everything, I wouldn't have spent all of that time. Honestly, I would have been like, listen, I'm the expert. Here's my value. The one thing you said at the end of 5 different emails was that I spend thousands of dollars to make sure that my seller's properties get the most amount of exposure. That's one thing I do that you can't do. You can't replicate the kind of exposure that I'll bring to your property, right? I'm going to print this offer out, and I want 30 minutes to go line by line and show you all the ways that you are losing money. When can we meet? And outside of him giving me a time to meet, to face, show him all the ways, I'm not going to go through that all the email, because you gave him great advice, but now why would he, use you kind of? He knows you've taught him that he can use you as a free advisor. Right? Kind of. Well, I mean, you're looking at the contract for him.
There wasn't a contract. It was just.
You're looking at the offer for him. Now he's asking you to look at the offer some more. So that's just my advice. I would really stop all of that. And listen, I'm your friend. You're my friend. You know I do this for a living. Give me some time to help you. Right? I don't need to dazzle him with all that verbiage. Just give me some time to help you. You know me. I'm not going to do you wrong. This is what I do for a living.
And at the end of each one, it was, hey, can we meet? What about this date? Or at the beginning, I'd say, what if we start out by, what if we go to dinner on Friday? Or what
Yeah.
if we go to dinner on this day?
I think it's too salesy. You guys are buddies. I don't need to give you all that paragraph. Let's get together. Let's get together, right? He doesn't want to be sold. I mean, because he sees it coming with all of that verbiage in the email, right? So I would just make it really casual and not about closing a deal. Just let me help you out. And if you articulate the value and what you're going to take off of his plate, he'll close himself. That would be my advice. What's up, Mike? Real quick.
I just have a suggestion.
Yeah.
Would it help?
Yeah, I'm open. That's why I put it out
With the
there.
energy you spent trying to convert that guy?
Yeah.
I just circle prospected around his house and warned all the local homeowners that if they go FSBO, they're gonna sell their house for $27,000 below market. I mean, I'm just saying, people gravitate to fear, right? So a FSBO is going to be a FSBO because of a bad experience with a realtor, or they're going to be a FSBO because they're trying to save money. How is $27,000 saving him money? He just sold his family's future down the toilet.
So, and I have texts and stuff that I was sending to him that were saying, hey, and it was genuine. I was like, I have 2 buyers. What are you selling the home for?
Yeah.
And wouldn't respond.
All right, but the point he's getting at is he had made his mind up, so he was done, right? He's probably done at email number 2. The point that we're making is just use it as a sales tool. It's something that nobody else in the marketplace knows, right? Until that deal closes, it's not public knowledge, right? So of a property in the local neighborhood that just sold for $27,000 below market, right? And it was FSBO.
So that's
Right?
good feedback.
Yeah.
Anybody else who has some feedback, share it with Brandon, right? And I'm sure he's willing to receive as much, just like I would be. I'd be willing to hear everybody's opinion. So spend some time with him on the side. I'm going to run through our last bit of content here. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Right. I mean, the takeaway could have been the best thing to do. Right? I don't have time to go over it with you. You got to spend some time to meet with me. I don't have time. All of a sudden, when you're not giving him these emails, now he wants you. You're scarce, right?